Using sends and returns is sort of like a shortcut. Rather than adding an audio effect directly on a track, we can put it on a return track instead. Then we can send a portion of the sound from one of our other tracks to the return track to be affected. Confused yet? Awesome. Think about it like this. Let's say you play guitar and you just finished recording 8 separate tracks of different guitar parts that all play together. Now you want to apply the same audio effect to all of them. For example, let's say you want to add some delay. How do you do it? If you're new to music production, you'd probably be tempted to add the delay device to each of the tracks. But that's not the best way to work. Why? It would be time-consuming, and to add the device 8 times in all those devices would suck up valuable CPU power. It would also be a serious pain if you wanted to change any of the parameters later, because then you'd have to make the adjustments 8 times on each instance of the delay device. The most effective way to apply the delay effect in this example is by using sends and returns. You would add the delay device to a return track, and then you would simply send part of the audio signal from the guitar tracks to the return track to get delayed. Boom! 8 tracks, 1 audio effect. This technique saves time, CPU power, and helps to create cohesion in your mix. Now, you probably won't use all of your audio effects with sends and returns, but it's a useful technique when you want to apply the same effect to multiple tracks. The most common effects to use with return tracks are reverb and delay. All right, so let's check out how these magical return tracks work. To start here, I'm going to clean up the arrangement view here by deleting these 2 blank MIDI tracks. And we notice that our return tracks in our default template from Ableton are located down here. And when I select on them, I can see that the A return has a reverb on it, and the B return has a delay already loaded. Let's clear our search and find a drum loop to work with. We'll click drums, and we'll go down here. And we'll use dry break 181 BPM. Let's drag it in and zoom in, and you know it. Hit what quick key? That's right, Command L to loop it. And let's fix the fade at the beginning. Okay, so we have our drum loop. So instantly, if we wanted to apply some reverb to this using a return track, we can use this slider here, which is known as our send. So what this is doing is it's actually sending a copy of our signal way down here to our return track. So watch this sorcery. So notice the more that I turn up this send, the more we hear the reverb. And pay attention to the level down here on the return track. As I turn this up, it sends more. If we go to the return track, notice that on the return, the dry wet percentage is set to 100% wet. And this is super important. When we have return tracks and you use an effect like reverb or delay, typically you want that set to 100% wet. So the real cool part about return tracks is that when we use another sound, we can send it to this same effect or this same return track. So let's go ahead and look for a guitar loop. Let's use this one, Guitar Cast 92, BPM, C minor. So I'll drag this in. I'll click here, hit Command E to separate that and just remove that part of the clip. And let's zoom in and I'll make the browser a little bit smaller. Let's add a little bit of reverb by turning up the send control. So now if I wanted to use that same reverb, I can take the guitar track here and send some of that also. We also have another return track here, return B, which has a delay on it. The B send is here, so if I turn this up, we'll hear more delay being added. So So now we have delay on the drums. Now I can add the same delay on the guitar. And if you're finding this tutorial helpful and want to learn more, this video is actually part of a 10-day Ableton bootcamp course available at sequence1.org. And if I go to the return track itself, click on the return track, I could do something like change. Let's press the link button here. So when I change the delay time, it changes both the left and right delay. So you can see that this is a really powerful way of using effects. The reason is we can send multiple tracks or multiple sounds to the same effect. Using reverb and delay in this way can create cohesion in our mix because it can create the illusion that our sounds are happening in the same space. And reverb and delay can be pretty subtle effects sometimes. So when you have a dense mix happening, it can be hard if you have a whole bunch of different types of delays and reverbs going on to hear those details in them. And that's where using a return track can help, because it's going to be this one track that we can send a couple different sounds to. So if we want to create a return track, we can right click and choose Insert Return Track or Option Command T. We can see that this has now created another return, our C return, and it's also added a third send control, right? And we remember send, it's sending a copy of that track down to that return track. The return track has the effect on it. So now if we wanted to add an audio effect, say we wanted to add another reverb preset, we go into reverb and we want to add this basement preset, we click and drag that to the C return. It's very important that when we do that when the reverb is on the return track, the wet value is at 100%. And again, this is because when we send a signal here, we just want it to return the affected signal, right? And that's again because our track is sending to it, and that return track that has the effect on it is sending to the main track. So they're both happening in parallel. We have our dry track, we have our return track, which has our effect on it, which creates our wet affected signal. They both send to the main track and meet there. So that's how you can create another return track and add another effect to it.